welcome to the AM only panel. I'm going to be very quick about the introductory stuff because it's actually a privilege to be able to ask these guys questions about AM only. First, quick personal introduction. My name is Kurosh Nasseri. I'm an entertainment lawyer based in the U.S. Electronic music is what I do. It's what I've been doing since 1992. My first exposure to electronic music was in 1988, late 88, 89. So the previous panel with Pete Hook was phenomenally interesting, especially when he was talking about the Hacienda, because I actually went there on musical pilgrimages when there was very little house music to be heard in the U.S. Go ahead, let's everybody have introduced themselves, and I'll circle back to why I made that comment.
My name is Matt Rodriguez, Vice President of West Coast Music for AM Only, also an agent. Ran off to the rave at a very early age, early 90s, not quite the 80s, but been kind of turned it into a career, so.
My name is Lee Anderson. I'm the East Coast Vice President of Music for AM Only. I've been with the company 9 years now and had been in the music business for about 7 years before that, and not really primarily in the dance music sort of space, and kind of came into that lane when I joined AM Only in 9 years ago, 2005.
Excellent. So the reason I made that comment about my early entrance into electronic music is because for as long as I remember that there's been an electronic music scene in the U.S., AM Only had always been one of the biggest and certainly one of the most important independent talent agencies, and that goes back many years. What year was AM Only established?
I think 96?
Yeah,
96.
Okay,
yeah.
So that's about right.
Yeah.
When
I started, there was 6 of us, and now we're up to 70
or so boys.
So throughout that time, and I guess that's, we're going to be approaching, the 20-year mark pretty soon for that?
We're almost legal to drink.
Almost. So throughout that time, AM Only has been incredibly important as a talent agency, certainly in the U.S., always had some of the most important artists, and I think this is a great way to take a glimpse into the whole agency business and to look at our business from an agent's perspective. So I'm only here as a moderator. I hope to ask the right questions to bring out the type of information that's going to be interesting for you. And we also plan to open it up for questions relatively early so that we can interact with the audience here. So let me start with this. We've seen this incredible corporate acquisition of independent brands. So I know that AM Only was independent for many years. You merged with, or went into a partnership with another talent agency that didn't really have anything going on in electronic music, and that's where you are today. But I still consider AM Only an independent agency. Yeah. Now, meanwhile, on the festival side, what we see is SFX has acquired many of the festival brands. Live Nation has been acquiring many of the festival brands. And I wanted to explore with you how this has affected your work as agents. Whether there's been an issue, whether there's been no issue, whether there's any conflict, because I think that this is actually really interesting to start.
All right, to clarify, we're in a joint venture with Paradigm. So, we're a 50-50 partner on the business. We operate independently as we always have, but we share resources, and Paul Morris, who founded the company, who's the president of the business, felt it was time to kind of have the guys that book bands like Coldplay and are doing stadiums and stuff around the world to be there to give a little insight and to share some resources, right? So that was a big reason why we did it. Matt can probably speak a little closer to integrating with them as they actually share an office in Los Angeles. It's the first Paradigm AM-only joint office. We're in our own space in Brooklyn, and Paradigm's in Manhattan. You want to jump in a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think Paradigm it turned out, hindsight, but the obvious choice is, although they didn't have anything in electronic music, they lived in the jam band world, the Fish world, the Dave Matthews, which is alt from the mainstream. So they kind of lived in this, non-mainstream world, like as dance music does. So there was a lot of similarities in that, where it's more about the experience and about the party and the event.
Yeah, their music division was built by collecting boutique booking agencies that were operating at a high level, right? So we sort of fit that criteria. And obviously, dance music, EDM, whatever you want to term it these days, was an area they didn't have. But, so it's not like you're jumping in and you're working in a territorial system where all of a sudden some guy who's never met your client is booking them on the West Coast or whatever. We operate the same way, and it's a collective of like-minded guys, and women, and we, share strategy and share stories and share information and share resources and package things, and I co-agent Rudimental and Clean Bandit with them, right? So those are bands that kind of fit in the electronic space, but also in a live world that benefits the acts to have both of our perspectives on it.
Was there any pressure to enter into a joint venture caused by William Morris getting into electronic music the way they did?
No, I think there was probably a lot of money on the table for Paul, though.
Yeah, I mean, and to kind of go to your question about SFX getting involved and Live Nation getting involved, all those people that they got involved with were there from the beginning.
Absolutely.
So we all grew. I think what's changed in that regard is the scale of it all. And I think in order for us to compete and be on that scale, that joining up with a agency like Paradigm made perfect sense.
That's totally fair, and I don't question that. I guess to refine the question, what impact has this relatively recent emergence of oligopolies, I don't want to call it a monopoly because there's more than one, what impact has it had on your job as agents? Do you feel you have to strategize more in order to deal with the situation? Because you're right, all the festival brands existed before, but they were all independent. So if you decided to perform at Tomorrowland, it really didn't have anything to do with whatever conversation you might have with Insomniac about EDC.
I mean, you do business based on what's the best fit for the artist and the best partner in those regards, right? I think in terms of Paradigm, Matt and I, the past 2 years, and probably more Matt than me, our artists have reached a level where we're not playing, necessarily just Pasha, and you're not playing 2,000 capacity rock venue, right, and touring that way. We've got arena shows. Matt's got the Forum in Los Angeles sold out with Above and Beyond on Friday, sold out the Garden. We just had Skrillex in Madison Square Garden. Those deals are not deals that we were generally used to looking at, right? So we're tapping into guys like Chip Hooper, who represents Dave Matthews Band and Fish, Marty Diamond, who does Coldplay, Jonathan Levine, who's got the Black Eyed Peas, right? And we're tapping into those people to say, hey, take a look at my deal. What do you think? Should I be getting a piece of water for my client, right? It keeps us competitive in that space. And I think that's the biggest thing. The second thing you're saying sort of about the SFXs and the Live Nations, there is pressure to go with those companies in different places. And I don't blame them. It's the business, and I would do the same fucking thing, right? You want to play this? We need your help here, right? And we can use it the same way. Hey, you want this guy here? Well, we need some help in this region or this, this territory in the globe or whatever it might be. But I think as people are consolidating a bit, you're seeing a line in the sand, and frankly, we have jobs because we know how to navigate that. We know how to get you to play Tomorrow World and to play EDC, right? And that's what we do for a living.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a political minefield. The scale has grown. Like where you would go and work with your independent promoter in that market, that was it. It lived in a bubble. You grew your act and made your 3 steps for growth with that artist in that market with that guy. Now that these are all jointed, it's changed the game. I mean, it's just raised the level.
My philosophy has always been, You're the best promoter with the best strategy in the market. You've got them, right?
Well, I actually really, what you're saying really connects with me, because it sounds like you're focusing on what's best for the artist. And I think that's a sort of a great guideline to maintain. How does it work in, let's say, in new markets, in emerging markets, in regions? How do you work to the act's greatest advantage? And let's not forget where we are. So I think Brazil's a huge territory where, you really sort of do, yes, the reputation matters, but at the same time, it's different. So what's your approach here?
I think different promoters are different, better fits for different acts. And you kind of identify that promoter and partner. I mean, you're not filling an order. Okay, you want to book a DJ, how much? Okay, done. You're building, okay, what's the plan in the market? Where do you see, how do we grow this act to be an arena act? What do you see as my partner in the market to how to get them there? And you work that out with the promoter. You're partners on this act. You're in it together to grow this act, to get it to that level. I mean, that's what I look for.
My goal when I sell 500 tickets in the first show, my goal is to sell that show out. And I want to hear from that promoter how I'm going to get that act to 15,000 tickets in 2 to 3 years, right? What are the steps? Play this club, then we're going to bring you back in the spring and you're going to play this festival. Then we're going to do a bigger headline play. Then you're going to take a year off. Then you're going to come back and headline, right? Something like that. However, with it being a global business and things, with music, a lot of times there's language barriers. It can be regional specific, right? With electronic music, it's not vocally driven for the most part, right? It's sonically driven. So an artist, the same record can be big in India and Australia and Russia, right? And South America, because it evokes something. It's not the lyrics of a rock song or something that might not cross over somewhere. Because of that, these artists are global touring acts, and a label's got an agenda, right? If the label needs you to really push this in Australia, then you might, and you've got to play a festival at the first week of December, you might not be able to play a festival that you want to do in South America that week, right? So it's juggling that. The short answer is we want one partner for an artist to be the long-term partner, and it's the best fit for them, right? It's got the best strategy. Sometimes you can't always make that work, and you've got to shuck and jew on your plans.
So within your agency, how does it work? Does each act have a dedicated agent who handles their touring worldwide, or is it different people for different regions? How exactly does this work?
Yeah, we don't do it by regions. It's one agent represents that artist. Sometimes there's agent teams that work on the artist. Yeah. But if we represent them in South America, we represent them. You're going to be talking to us.
We do a lot of our we do 99% of our roster for North and South America. We probably do 50-60% of it for the world outside Europe, and there are a few acts that we do for the world, including Europe. Like Matt said, if you want to book Zed in New York, or you want to book Zed in Tokyo, or you want to book Zed in Rio, you're talking to me, and I'm the one having the conversation. It's not a territorial thing. It's one person in sync, and that's our philosophy. Everyone's got their own view. CA and William Morris work in territorial systems. I don't find that to be the best way to do business, because I don't feel like they're connected and in sync with the artists all the time. It can jam up getting a deal done because you got to go through 8 people and it becomes a game of telephone, right? The person negotiating with the promoter might not have any clue what that artist's desire is to do in South America, what their plan is, what their timeline is, right? They're just fielding an offer. We find it to be more efficient and a closer connection with our clients to operate the way we do.
Yeah, I mean, like Lee said, it's a global strategy. So when it's coming out of one office and you can actually see that whole strategy and implement it.
Do you work with sub-agents?
Yeah.
There's probably some in here who are going to tell me I'm an asshole. Raise your hands if you are. I am if a sub-agent can deliver something that I cannot do on my own, or I don't know the buyer, and it makes sense, I will work with them. I generally like to go directly to the promoter because I want to know where the money's coming from, what the plan is, what the deal is, and who it is. If I've ever offended a sub-agent in here, that's why. It's not out of the question, but I want to know that the guy that's sending me this and all this, they're fully invested in it. It's their money. It's them on the line. They've got to do this. I want the promoter to know the artist, That's my opinion. As a business, yes, we work with a lot of sub-agents.
I was just going to say,
me
Matt,
personally,
you gave me a straight yes, so let's talk to you for a minute.
No, it really depends on the market. I mean, overall, we would ideally like to work with that promoter, but what if there is the language barrier? What if I look at a lot of the sub-agents that we work with in territories as our partners as well, that I want invested in the act. And sometimes I'll go direct, and sometimes they'll piece a tour together with me. But I look at them, especially in like a Brazil, even in some regions of Asia, I look at them as my partners, as like if they're a promoter. But then, there needs to be that connection there. Sure.
Here's the thing: if it's completely transparent, you know where the dollars are going, it's no problem. And there's a lot of benefits to having sub-agents involved. Cultural differences, language barriers, them understanding the landscape, them being on the ground, right? I know the States pretty well. I live there. I'm bouncing around. But I might not know the newest club that opened up in Phuket, Thailand, and my sub-agent there might, So what I like to just make sure is that it's very transparent as to where the money is going in a deal with a sub-agent.
Yeah, there's been a lot of instances over the course, especially in the early days of being in agencies. It was a little wild, wild west. You don't know how much they were actually paying, and it was like, this is what they were paying, but then they were upcharging, and there was a lot of that. I think the transparency has become, it's become clearer now. I think the bigger this business has gotten, I think the sub-agencies need to be more transparent in order to survive in this climate now.
So looking at the flip side of it, you've told us a little bit about what you look for in promoters, which I find very impressive. If you're looking for the promoter that can actually help to implement you a longer-term plan, that makes a lot of sense to me. What about on the talent side? What is it that you look for? Let's say you have a new DJ. I don't want to draw parallels, so I'm not going to say it's a 17-year-old. But let's say you have a new DJ and looking for representation by a booking agency. What do you look for on the talent side?
Yeah. Again, every agent's got a different philosophy. Me personally, I talent first, right? The music's got to be there. Number one. Team is very, very important to me. I've seen incredibly talented musicians with bad teams fizzle out because they can't move the ball down the field. I've seen mediocre artists with incredible teams do very well. So the team's important, and it's not fair that it's that way, but that's the reality. So right off the bat, I want to know that there's a manager that can keep things organized and that can handle their business and know it. They might be 20 and very green to the business, but they care about the artists and they're in it. They're going to figure it out. Might be a really accomplished manager who's got a tremendous amount of contacts and can pick up the phone and get you a Coachella slot, right? So that matters. Label situations don't as much because you can release it, but a label doesn't hurt if it's on a good one. And a publicist is really important to me, right? Because they're the ones that are really going to get a lot of visibility on the acts. Data, looking at what are your stats on social media and all that. But to me, the short answer of it is good music and a team.
And to build on that, and so say that those things are in place. And so I kind of look for, have I heard, it's just kind of random. Have I heard the name 3 times this week? Have people that I trust. I have kids that are out a lot because I don't go out as much as I used to, and kids that I trust and promoters that I trust that actually have their ear to the ground that tip me off. So if I hear a name and I see, God, this name keeps popping up, I'll ask them to get a little more inside scoop. Then you dig in farther, find out if that team's there. And all that shit has to happen immediately because there's 85 other agents out there doing the same thing. Yeah. But tips, you got to have a good network of people you trust, people that you can call on. How is this? Oh, yeah, amazing music, great. But he fucking sucks live. He's terrible. Ooh, okay. You know what I mean? These kind of things, because I can't be in Portugal hearing this, and I can't be in these places. So you have to have that network of people that you can look up to.
To what extent? And you mentioned Lee, you mentioned social media only very briefly. To what extent is all of this social media driven? Because I see decisions being made by promoters by looking at, you know, the following on Twitter, number of likes on Facebook, you know, whatever's going on, looking at their SoundCloud, et cetera. I mean, there seem to be metrics in play that have nothing to do with the music or the team. In other words, if somebody somehow ends up being very popular on Twitter, even although they don't necessarily deliver on the music, how do you weigh these factors out, and how important are the social media statistics in this business?
It's tougher now because everybody can buy friends and buy likes and all that shit. So you really have to kind of sift through all the white noise and all the crap to get to the real of it. I look for how actually people are interacting with them on social media, how much response they get when they actually post stuff. Those kind of things, the actual interaction between them and their fans is very important. I mean, if they have 1 million likes and there's like they post something and get no kind of reaction, chances are it's bot.
The gross number of likes, right? The gross number of followers on Instagram and Twitter, I don't care about. I do, right? But that's not it. It's what's the ratio to people talking about you versus your number, right? That can tell how engaged your fan base is. Go look at a post, right? Artist puts up a new song, artist puts up a photo. How many comments are there in those things? Those are ways to sift through the ones that are bullshit aren't. I think, you know, data is data, right? So any data that we can get our hands on to help us steer our clients in the right direction or sign a client, we're going to use. You know, and it's something that actively as a business, we're definitely spending a lot of time and resources on to continue to build that data and get our hands on the best data to help us. It's kind of king at the moment, right? You know, if there's 1,000 people talking about you, but you really like the song and it was on some blogs, I'm probably not putting you in a 4,000 person club, right? So you use that a bit and you understand. You really see it come into play on billing as well, unfortunately. But, you know, it's like, hey, well, there's this many people, and no, he's going to be billed above you on this line and stuff. I see promoters really beginning to use it a lot. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, because they're looking for something tangible. Billing is such a ridiculous fight that we all have to do and deal with because, you know, well, he sold more records here. Well, he sold more tickets here. Well, there's so many different things you can look at to justify being billed, and data is one of them.
Glad you brought it up. I mean, let's talk about these billing wars, because it seems like a lot of everyone's time on a day-to-day basis is spent on billing wars, you know, and first of all, how do you deal with it? And second of all, to what extent does that determine the actual routing? You know, to what extent will an artist just say, you know what, forget it, I'm not going to play this festival because I'm going to be in the soup, and they're putting, you know, they're billing so-and-so above me, even although I've got bigger stats or sell more records or whatever.
Yes. Yeah, there's. You want to go ahead?
Yeah, I've never not done an event for a client overbilling or money. I almost have overbilling once, and I ate it, and I did it, right? When I didn't come from dance music, and Mac can definitely speak more elaborately on this and kind of the history. When I came into AM Only, it was like I knew billing. I was dealing with rock shows. You'd see festivals. As a consumer, as a fan, I didn't really think about who's on the top line or anything there. I didn't think about it as a promoter doing shows. When I got into dance music, it was like this billing. It was crazy. I mean, I would hear agents scream at the top of their lungs, people getting pulled off of shows. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, it's crazy, you know? It's part of the culture within electronic music. I personally think it's like if you're in an appropriate place, you're in a close slot, go let your set speak. If you are the best and you are the biggest, you'll have the biggest crowd, right? It doesn't matter where you're billed or things like that. They will come for you and you will show it. You know, walk the talk kind of, right? And when you do that, then it's hard to deny the next time you have those arguments. I personally would be thrilled if everybody would just go to the alphabetical format. My opinion, Matt might have a different one.
No, exactly. Once that started taking hold, the alphabetic, it was the biggest relief, because we're getting pushed by managers who's getting, you know, pushing. It's not us that stomp up on the ground, unless it's completely ridiculous, obviously. But yeah, the alphabetical thing
Well,
changed.
but
The old saying,
pro-
don't kill the messenger. It's not always us. Sometimes
No,
that we're fighting tooth and nail, but it's like we're getting a lot of pressure behind us to do so.
Of course, and the problem is you can deliver the best set, but the reality is for any large festival, the number of impressions the promotion generates is 10x or 100x of the number of people at the actual festival. And then, when you look at after movie, that's a situation that's not necessarily in your control.
Yeah.
That's the next sort of big stop in terms of the number of impressions. And then you get the fan interaction. Well, yes, of course, the fan for a particular act is going to post, a clip from that set and say this was the greatest ever. But I think people don't necessarily pay as much attention, which is why people on the management side say, well, wait a second, no, billing is everything.
Yeah.
And, to answer your question, yes, all alphabetical billing would solve the problem. The problem is, for whatever reason, nobody except for Insomniac really has had the courage to go all alphabetical and say, you know what, we don't care, fans, you're going to buy our tickets anyway, and we don't care, promoters and managers.
I think it's a hybrid, because I think you lose something by going all alphabetical.
Yeah.
I think you lose your headliners. You lose the people that are actually driving your sales. I think what they've done is this hybrid now where you have, if you're in the same same range of an act, same profile, they'll put those logos in alphabetical. And then the next level, logos in alphabetical. Then you just have to get your artist where you think he needs to.
Well,
Yeah,
does
it's
that
easy.
solve the problem, though?
It has. It's helped a lot. I've watched it evolve over where it was screaming and pulling. I mean, we
Yeah.
used to pull people off of shows all the time. I mean, nope, not going to happen. Sorry, we're not doing the show.
And it
ridiculous.
doesn't help anybody, because when you get into that, ultimately, everyone suffers. It delays the promoter time to promote the show and sell tickets. It hurts the performance because of that for the artist. No one wins, right? So we worked hand in hand with people to do it. Look, when Matt's got Above and Beyond, or Paul's got Tiesto, or I've got Skrillex, we're not really going to have a hard time getting the billing we want. But when you have those mid-level acts, Tommy Trash, should he be over rehab? Should he not? Should I not play this because rehab's over? It gets a little crazy. And I think to what you're saying with after movies and things, that matters for the headline guys, right? If Tommy Trash is on the left or the right of rehab, that's probably not going to change his life, right? Is my opinion.
That's what
I might have to convince him that, you know what I mean? But Tommy's actually very easy.
Actually, maybe you should.
Well, so another thing is promoters have gotten smarter because they're offering on this slot. So, is it a headline? No, then let's just talk about it next time when you're going to offer a headline. And it's done right there. You as an agent, you need to know exactly what you're confirming. And that weeds out a lot of the fucking back and forth and the pushing.
In bringing this full circle with the paradigm thing, details are something that I think we've looked at a lot more when we've been in it, right? You used to sort of okay, 30 grand, yeah, great. Okay, what's the slot? Okay, cool, confirm it, right? Then all of a sudden you didn't go over billing, right? Well, now there's so many details in the process, right? It's billing, it's force majeure cancellations, it's streaming rights. How long do they have it? Where does the streaming live, So we've now kind of when you do a deal on promoter side and the agent side, it's your little checklist. Let's go through. Let's force the conversation. Let's get through it. Boom, boom, boom. Get over that roadblock and keep moving. And I think that's something we've looked at, and it's made the process easier. It's not really hectic when you're fighting or duking it out about something early on in the negotiation process. It's sort of look, this is what it is or it's not, right? And if the promoter really wants it, they're going to cave. And if the artist really wants to play, they're going to cave, right? You put it to bed, you've addressed it, you move on. A lot of this stuff used to happen because people weren't thinking about it. Yes, here's my money, here's my slot, confirm it, great. All of a sudden, artwork comes out the day before they want to announce, it's the 24th hour, everyone's stressed out, your blood, pressure's rising, and now, you're fighting about things, and it used to get really explosive.
So what is your position on streaming?
It's going to be interesting how they. Well,
We could do a whole panel on
Yeah, I
streaming.
mean, it's done wonders for some of my acts. I mean, it's unreal. Trending worldwide to you name it, and blown them up. I've seen it happen firsthand. But then it's also now, how do you monetize this? And I think that's where the question starts falling in.
Early on, we were saw streaming a couple times. I'm this is going to be big, right? There's going to be a lot of money in play here. And we need to answer the questions of our managers about this, right? So we thought a lot about streaming. I think that it depends on the festival on a stream, right? I don't want my guy streamed if it's a small festival and there's 5,000 people. If there are 50,000 people at the main stage, go ahead. They look like the fucking Beatles up there, right? You know what I mean? Like, let's go. It depends on production and stuff. I personally think it's kind of boring to watch a DJ on a stream. You know, I think I'll tune into streams and watch bands and stuff. And it's not everybody, but a lot of them, it's about the energy of being in there, right? In this genre and the excitement and the production there. Production doesn't look as impressive on a screen. And there's not like a whole, you know, a crazy amount going on. It's sort of like pan to the crowd. They're all going crazy. Some fireworks go off. Great visuals. DJ's there you go, right? That's not that exciting. The tough thing with the streaming is the brand deals, right? So if you're Bonnaroo and you've done a $3 million stream deal or something, right? They're doing that off of their artists, right? Those brands are not signing that check until they know who they're getting, right? Do I have Elton John or do I have Jay-Z, right? And that is definitely directly correlates with the talent on the headline end. And it's a tough one, but I unfortunately think that the law's been laid down, and I don't think we're going to be able to get rev shares on it. You know, any deal can be negotiated. I guess if you're a top line act and you really want it, you can get a piece, but it's all going into a pot anyways, right? So you're kind of getting as much as you can for your client.
Last question before we open it up for questions to the audience, and staying on the topic of streaming. Have you guys engaged in any of the deals where the actual performance is streamed into a venue? Yes, and I was going to finish with that one. What are your thoughts?
Monetizing streaming is a different story, right? I really was just speaking a lot to festival streaming. It's cool. I've done one pay-per-view thing. It was cool. It can be revenue. If you're going to stream, it's a big show. If you're going to a big show, there's usually a lot of expenses in the building. It's another thing to offset the costs, right? Go Madison Square Garden. Seems like, wow, these guys just sold a lot of tickets, right? You're not making a ton of money. Well, if you can get $300,000 on a stream from Live Nation, or you're going to sell it in a pay-per-view format, that money can help offset it and make those things worth doing, right? So that I like that end of it when the artist controls it. It's new. It's really new.
We just did a hologram streamed.
That's what I was asking about.
Yeah. We just did one of those, and with a smaller profiled act. And we've now done 3 gigs with that hologram. And it's the same one and the same set, all private settings. It's more of look at this new technology. But it's going to be interesting to see where that goes.
Do you see a future for that type of performance, for a streamed performance?
I think in markets that artists can't get to, in some remote city in China or something that an artist just is not going to get to, I think maybe there. I think it's taking off more in Asia than anywhere. I think they have full concerts with holograms. I mean, that it works there culturally. I don't know if it'll ever work in the States to that level, but it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see where it goes.
I think places on the globe that are tougher to get to, and sorry, I didn't realize what you were asking me before, but places on the globe that are tougher to get to, it can be awesome. To throw it up in a suburb 45 minutes outside of Chicago, I'd rather those people just bought the ticket to go to Chicago. And that happens, you know. Oh, we're in Modesto. It's like, well, why don't they just go to L.A. the show, you know?
All right, I lied. I had one more question for you guys before we open it up. To what extent do you as agents get involved in the planning together with managers, business managers? You know, when you talk about the team, to what extent do you become a part of that team?
Instrumental part in the team. I mean, we steer the live side of it, and on the live performance side, we're steering that strategy. Of course, with the manager and you're brainstorming, you're coming up, but that is what we're here for, is to what promoters to work with, what shows to do, when to be in what market at what time of the year.
Yeah.
I mean, all those things.
We handle the schedule, right? So we're probably the core 3 integral part, right? It's probably the manager, the artist, then us, right? Now, the manager might have a label release schedule, and maybe we'll work around that. Or maybe we give him a touring schedule, and he takes that to the label to determine it. Might go to the business manager, say, here's what we're looking at for projections. They might say, if you want that house, they're going to need a little more. They'll come back, we'll add some stuff or whatever. But we steer it. Disclosure would be a good example. I had all their 2015 and 16 touring done, 18 months ago. And they took that to Interscope, and Interscope based their release plans for album 2 off of the touring. Doesn't always work that way, but we're right there. You gotta remember, like, these guys are these guys are making a lot of their money live. So it's a big part of the business, and that's usually kind of the first thing they want to figure out. It's their money.
All right. Do we have a microphone for the crowd so we can hear your questions?
Yes, it went away. Move to next year.
Anyone? Do we have a microphone for the? Oh yes, fantastic.
I've already got it.
Here we go. No problem.
I can maybe use that. No one's got questions?
Here, yeah.
There we go.
Nowadays, what are the standard commissions that an artist has for a manager and an agency? And do you have artists who, for example, is it a standard commission for every artist, or you have an artist that has more or less? I mean,
let me say something to that before you guys answer. I worked with one of the more established managers. I'm a lawyer, and as part of this team, I worked with an established manager based in LA who's been in this business for a very long time. And we were about to get into a battle about commissions because it was time to renew the contract, and the artist had grown in stature. And I'll never forget what he said to me. He said, if Sir Mick Jagger offers me 2%, I will say thank you very much and then shut up and take the money and do the best job I possibly can. If you come to me and offer me 2%, I will punch you in the face. Yeah. So there is a range. There's a range, and I will never forget what he said. It was quite appropriate. I'm like, okay, lesson number 1, this is how it works. So the range of commissions does exist. I don't think it would be fair to say to any audience, the answer is always the same. So when you say what's the standard commission, I just want to make sure that we understand that this is within a range where a top act that's generating $30 million in income will probably enjoy the benefit of a lower commission percentage than the act that's first starting.
Yeah, because here in Brazil we have some hybrid agencies where they do both management and the bookings. But I think that there's a law or something in the U.S. that you can't do both, right?
Yeah.
Well, you could actually.
You can get around any law.
Yeah, it's
everything's negotiable. I can't speak to a management. I think it's 15 to 20% roughly. Again, you got a huge client, take less. For the most part, most people on the booking end, it's a 10% gross commission. So if you got booked for $100,000, the agency gets $10,000 of that. That is like relatively standard, but it's not for everybody. It's always negotiable.
So just to flesh out your answer a little bit, as with all things in life, the devil's in the details. When you say 10% gross, what does gross mean? So then you start to negotiate the list of expenses that you can or cannot deduct. So gross does not mean the same thing as gross, and it goes back to the Sir Mick Jagger conversation that I had.
Exactly.
Next question.
Hey, objectively, for how many artists can you take care of with the same quality of service?
It's a great question.
It is.
I think it depends on the size of your team, and you got to really look at, are you...
As agents,
as a one agent, I mean, I don't know that number, but I mean, I know what my workload is, and I have bookers, and I have junior agents, and I have logistics. I mean, without that team, it would be a lot smaller than it is now.
Yeah, that's a big thing when we talk about how we rep our clients. We rep them, but I have teams, right? On Skrillex and Zeb, there's 2 people that handle all the details, right? But I'm going in, negotiating everything, and doing all this stuff. There might be some clients where I put the entire strategy together, and I've got a junior agent on it that goes and takes that strategy and implements it. And when someone tells them no, I tell them to get that person on the phone, and I get them to say yes. We keep it moving. But
It's an agent by agent.
It
There's some that
depends.
can just.
yeah, it depends how active the
volume.
clients are, you know.
Junior agents is the answer.
What?
Junior agents is the answer.
Yeah, but not really. There's clients that I would not want anybody but myself handling things on, and there's some that are developing. They're capable of doing it. Again, you can't answer it. You know, I personally have about 20 clients, right? About 8 of those I do by myself. Nobody else agents it. The other ones do, but that could shift. You know, if a few of those bigger agents or those bigger acts decide it's going to be a really big year and they're in album mode, then I might be working 6 solo. You know, it really can vary. It depends how busy the clients are.
Yeah, I mean, you have artists that are from Europe that come once a year, twice a year. I could do that tour in 20 minutes. X
Chip-
amount of emails, and it's done.
Chip Hooper books Fish and Dave Matthews, and those guys are really. It involves a lot of time, right? So he basically does those guys. You know, it totally depends.
Do you guys deal with travel, logistics, etc. at all?
We used to for everybody. When I started at AM Only, I was an assistant, and that's what I did. I did itineraries, I advanced stuff, you know, issue the contracts. I did it all day. We don't do it anymore. It's generally on the management end. There are some clients that we do it for, but generally it's the management. You know, we're there, we're involved in it, but
We try to get out of the travel agent business.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
try to
it
get
just
out of that
it
business.
caused so many problems. But you know, we do
That's
have
what makes you
logistics.
guys smart.
We do have logistic people that coordinate with management to help them get the info that they
Exactly.
need. But
Yeah,
It
exactly.
ends up causing you have a flight screw up. The gig could be amazing. It could be the right play, and some logistical thing fucks up. It's on us. It's
Yeah.
just gotten silly.
Next question.
What's the biggest challenge to an agent such as AM Only in the next 5 years, and what are your solution thoughts for those issues?
I'm going to say 2 things. One is dance music. It's how big will it continue to be? I think that electronic music will be very big for 20 years. I think if you're a very big act, if you are Calvin Harris, if you're Avicii, if you're Above and Beyond, if you're Tiesto, if you're Skrillex, if you're Zed, you're fine. There was a real excitement about it being new, and that allowed a lot of guys to be big DJs making 20 grand a night and making millions of dollars a year. I don't know that excitement stays and that fire stays. That's one. So it's diversifying the business, right? If it's moving live, do we have more live acts? Where's that, right? Can we sustain the live touring thing, or does it need to remain in clubs and festivals? Another thing is you know, drug use can be a threat to things and safety. It's something that we can't control, but we can try to make sure people are controlling and making sure things are safe. International growth and paying attention. South America has been solid and continues to grow. Asia, I think, is poised to really explode. So looking at the international part of the business.
Yeah,
Shit.
constantly evolving with the sound. I mean, the sounds change, and to be on that forefront of it. I think dance music, there's going to be an adjustment here. I mean, it got so big, so I don't think there's going to be a bubble burst. I mean, I've been doing this for many years, and I saw the first wave drop. You know, it's going to adjust, and are we going to be able to be the leaders of that adjustment and on the cutting edge of the new sounds that are evolving and bringing in, you know, it's a worldwide business, and to be on that cutting edge.
Yeah,
worldwide.
you know, when I started, and I was an assistant, and you were going out, Electro House was huge. And, you know, being the assistant on Mastercraft, that was going to be awesome to be in the green room that night. When's the last time Mastercrafts played your town, right? Then you saw dubstep. It was everywhere, exploded. That's not there, you know. Trap sort of happened. Progressive house exploded again. Now it's deep house. So it's staying ahead of the curve on what's going to happen, which I think we've traditionally been pretty good at, and I think we'll continue to be good at. You know, getting out ahead of a trend. Once something is a trend, you're too late on it, right? So you got to be on the next one and already have your business established. we have a great A&R department. We constantly keep young kids on. Like Matt said, doesn't go out. Like I don't go out like I used to, you know. But the kid who's 23 in the office does, and you build relationships and rapport with the young guys, and you know you teach them how to do the business end, and they keep you cool, you know. So that's the truth of it.
Next question.
Well,
No, not you.
yeah, let's go. And I would like to know what is the main reasons to make any kind of confirmation for your talents in Brazil, and what is your point of view for the Brazilian market, and what is the best way to your talents be more around Brazil, playing down here?
We've had this conversation. Okay.
It was in May.
I think Brazil is just getting warmed up. I think Brazil seems to be opening up to more genres. Used to kind of be like trance, big room stuff, or super like underground minimal techno, right? I think that's broadening a bit. I think that the festival space is gonna be a big one. Did Tomorrowland sell out in a day here? Did that happen or very quickly?
May.
Pretty quickly, right? Kind of going back to the consolidation in those things, right? If the guys that book Tomorrowland want the club shows and can put you on the festival, it's going to be beneficial for your client, right? So thinking of a long-term plan and how to grow them there. Some guys just want to do a club run, and that's easy. But I think ultimately we strategize and advise. That's what we do, right? We build a strategy and we advise you to implement it. That's plain and simple what we do. Sure, we have lawyers, sure, we have contracts, sure, we chase money. We build a strategy and we advise on what to do with it. So when we're looking with a partner, obviously the money on the short-term deal and the short dollar is going to matter, right? Does this make sense? Can my guy afford his flights, bring a tour manager, yada, yada, and still net out some money and make a living, right? But what is this person who wants it? What are they thinking beyond this? Okay, great. You've got a 4-show run, right? What are we going to do next time? When is that next time? What's that going to lead to? That's the biggest thing. So a lot of times I see from people like, okay, I've got 30 grand to show, and here we go. I'm like, sorry, I can't make it happen. Like, okay, 40 grand. I can't make it. Okay, 50 grand. It's like, dude, it's not the money. You know what I mean? I'd rather you stayed at 30 and came to me with a plan of why I should do those shows for 30 and what that's going to lead to and where that's going to get you. That's the biggest thing that I want to hear when I'm working on shows.
Yeah, same. I mean, I want them to be as excited at the growth of the artist as I am. Okay, all right, so here's what we do. I think we do this, and then we come back in November and we do this festival, and then you know what, we're going to wait and we come back and do this. You know, there's got to be those, and hopefully the artist trajectory goes as we all hope it's going to, and you can skip a couple of those steps, but that long-term vision of growth for that act.
Here's another big one. Oftentimes you kind of get an offer, here's these clubs, there you go, right? I don't live here, so I don't know that X club has been going off the last 3 months. It's brand new, kids love to go here, look at the line outside, look at inside, this is the vibe. Here are the artists that are playing, the scene's going here. Like when Matt and I came down, we were like, we know promoters, right? We have people that we work with, but we were like, I want to know what's going on now. What are kids into? What sound is emerging? What are the new clubs, right? How many kids are going out? What's developing here culturally, right, with the music? That's the biggest thing. And oftentimes you get an email with money, you know, dates, and that's it. It's like, I want to know more about it. Like, why is this there? Why is my artist going to have a blast if he goes down there? What else are you going to do with them? Where are you going to take them? What's the vibe going to be like? How old are the fans going to be at the club, right? Those details are really important and helpful for us to advise on a decision with our clients, you know, and let them know those things.
And part of that plan is marketing. I mean, what kind of reach are they going to have? What kind of exposure are they going to have in the market? What kind of impact is there coming to this show and this run and this festival? How much beyond them performing is actually going to impact them?
Matt, Lee, thank you. Thank you everyone here. I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you, guys.